This is not another Econ podcast. I'm Ian Kaneshiro. You've likely been there on a stretch of highway in the middle of nowhere, perfect weather, and no one else around. You feel like you can go 100 miles an hour, no problem, but you refrain to as you've been passing a series of speed limit signs of 65 miles an hour. We recognize the importance of following those speed limit signs because they're there to keep us safe. They're rules and regulations that are put in place for the greater good of society. Now imagine in that same instance, the same speed limit, but without your speedometer on your car, the crucial instrument needed to keep your speed in check is missing. So how in the world are you supposed to comply? Year after year, Amazon's revenue dwarfs the gross domestic product or the GDP on countries around the world. An organization that large is larger than some countries, and these countries still have regulations in place to keep their machine flowing and moving forward. So from rules about who can sell what brands and categories to how they must be packaged and how long you can keep them in Amazon's warehouse, the rules that Amazon has seems endless. Amazon does provide a slew of tools for sellers to track their compliance, but oftentimes sellers find themselves in situations where they get that speeding ticket from Amazon, but there's no easy road signs and their speedometer doesn't exist. Today, we have a friend of mine, Vanessa Hung, founder of Online Seller Solutions, a company that helps businesses thrive in the world of e-commerce. Vanessa is an expert in what she describes as the unsexy side of Amazon, where she often does lectures and consulting for sellers who want to learn about the tools within Seller Central to avoid those costly mistakes and inefficiencies while operating their Amazon businesses. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Wow. Okay. I really, really like it because I use the same analogy of a car. You know, when you race F1, everybody wants to be the pilot, right? Like everybody wants to be the pilot, but a few people want to be the people in the pit helping and making sure the car is perfect to run as fast as possible to win the race. And those are the ones that don't really get the credit for everything they do. So I really see my work and the work of back-end management, what I call it, the unsexy, that unsung heroes of the success of an account. So your analogy was fantastic. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming to have you on. You and I have known each other for years and see each other a lot of times at conferences, all across the country, talking to Amazon sellers. And, the one thing that, I've seen you speak many, many times. And the one thing that always really impresses me about your talks is that you always have like your hand on the pulse of Amazon and everything that's new, whether it's a new rule that we have to comply to and a new tool to help us comply to those rules. And I guess like to just kind of kick us off a little bit, how do you stay in touch with Amazon that closely?
Well, working with many, many accounts at the same time. And that's the reason why I actually started the agency, was because I was an e-commerce manager working in one account only. Like one company, they had 3 accounts, but it was kind of the same thing. And when I started like working with more and more people, I really realized that Amazon is a huge universe with a bunch of moving pieces, and there is little, like close to nobody that has the full picture. And I'll tell you, like, I know a lot of the things that are moving inside of Amazon and the policies of selling. But if people start asking me questions about what's going on marketing or what's going on the PPC side, I don't know. And I don't think there is one single human being that is like looking at everything and understanding everything that's happening. So my role has been to understand what happens in Seller Central and the policies that side of compliance, what people need to do to efficiently do account management. But and bring a light to it for the community, because that's one thing that Amazon hasn't been great about it, is the fact of they're always changing, but they don't tell us that, There's no a dashboard where you say, like, this is everything that changed, because sometimes they don't even want you to know. That's a completely different topic, but understanding that and getting used to the change and getting used to the speed of things evolving, it is extremely important for the success of the business. And if you can get there first, you will have more chances to succeed than other people that will need to manage that in a reactive way.
Yeah, most definitely. I think one of the questions I have is, like, you are saying that you're able to figure out these Amazon policy changes quickly because you are touching so many different Amazon businesses. And it ends up being a reactive activity for you for one of your clients, let's say. But because you now know that that's a policy change, you can be proactive with the rest. And so the benefit of that is kind of like a sense of community and networking that Amazon sellers are always talking about, to share like the problems that they've had and how they can rectify it, because these policies are changing so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And I can say that there is no world where somebody that only focuses on one account could see everything that's happening. And a lot of it is that. A lot of that is learning from the mistakes of others and implementing that. But more than that's probably just the tactical part of the little pieces that are moving. One thing that I think I realized really, really early in my career in the Amazon space was understanding Amazon in first principles. So there are 4 first principles that I like to think when I see things happening on Amazon. So the first principle is customer obsession, which goes back to their origin and their mission and the vision for the company. That's what Amazon believes. They are the company that is the most obsessed with customers, right? So
customer-centric company, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that. So they are always protecting that side. And once you understand that's who they are, then when I present you facts of new rules or new compliance things or new policies, then it makes sense. Okay, so understanding that first is key for you to really see the big picture when things change in the platform. The other thing, the second principle, is innovation. Because they are a technology company, they're always innovating. And innovating in the marketplace, innovating how you see results, innovating how they interact with seller, innovating the programs, the technology inside the warehouse. They will never end up innovating. That's the norm for them. And because of that, sellers need to be in the front of any policy or any program. They'll need to be the first ones. We need to be, as sellers, early adopters. That should be our personality in that sense, because it is always changing. So you shouldn't be comfortable in your position where you are right now. Like, if a seller is comfortable right now, they're probably losing and they're probably dying, because the ecosystem changes so rapidly that, let's say, from now and 6 months, let's say 2024, the things that you should be doing and paying attention in your business are completely different, right? Obviously, you need to pay attention to your product development and inventory, but inside of the account, metrics will be completely different, dashboards will be completely different, and probably you will have new policies to comply. So that's the other thing. The third principle is that there are a holistic ecosystem. And understanding this is fundamental for sellers when they see problems. Sometimes the seller has an issue and they think that's an isolated case or isolated inventory issue. But in reality, everything that happens in an account impacts everything else. So let's talk about pricing and repricing. Your pricing strategy doesn't only affect how much you sell or not, but it affects how the algorithm sees you as a seller that interacts with the platform and tries to win the buy box and trying to rank metrics. If you sell more, then you potentially will have more reviews, and that will bump up your metrics in the back end. And if you fulfill properly in the targets that you have, then you are in the back end a good seller, and that will, allow you to have more capabilities as far as programs or storage or things like that. So no action inside of Amazon is isolated. It will have a ripple effect in many, many other areas, which are obviously extremely important for you to understand. And that's a fundamental part of account management that I like to focus on. Things are the foundation of the success of the business needs to come back from those first principles. The last one is efficiency. And think about efficiency as a coin that has two sides. The first one is Amazon. Amazon wants to be efficient. They actually use their innovation to be every year, every day, every month more efficient in everything that they do. So each program that's new, it's because they want to, or they see something, they have a hypothesis where they could see that this could make them more efficient. And on the other side, because you understand that Amazon is always trying to be more efficient, and honestly, that's what every business should be. Every year you should be more efficient, right? Because if you double the size of your business, but you are, 100 times less efficient, then are you really growing? And with that premise, you start building things, and that, what I mentioned before, is the foundation for your business in an efficient way, but complying to what Amazon thinks is efficient. And that's the key part, because what you think is efficient, for example, let's say that you think that hiring an employee to do your repricing because they have, they understand your business and they know your prices, that you think that's efficient. But in reality, you're working with a platform that is like active 24/7, always changing, multiple players coming in and out all of the time. So then, in order to be efficient, up to the efficiency that Amazon expects you to be, you need technology. So then you will, get a software that does that for you. Those kind of things. And that is particularly the principle that I think sellers have the most issues with, because what they have in their mind as efficiency is not necessarily what Amazon think is efficient as a seller. So when it comes to handling cases, handling cases is a really, I would say it's an art, right? Not everybody is meant to be opening cases because they like the patience, the knowledge, or the understanding on how the system works. But they are Amazon in their end. They're trying to be efficient. So they're asking you to be efficient on your side. And again, what we think is efficient, it's not necessarily what they think is efficient. So that is where you lay out these 4 principles, and anything that you see that's happening on Amazon, you see them through those lenses, it will start making sense. So it also deattaches yourself or the seller as an operator to be reactive and always be angry, because that's one thing that I really admire from a bunch of sellers, is that they are so involved in the business that sometimes they attach their emotions or identity to what's happening on Amazon. And I mean, I've seen a lot of them having meltdowns and, crying over the phone because Amazon suspended their account, which is fine. It obviously impacts you. But once you understand that this is a machine and they have principles like the law of gravity, then you start building stuff to comply with those principles instead of reacting to the circumstances.
Yeah, I completely hear you on that. And I think one of the things when you're talking about efficiency that came to mind, that's something that you probably know better than I, is this idea of we deal at SellerSnap, we deal with Amazon's SP API, and oftentimes there's errors. And when there's an error with on one of our sellers' accounts, we need them to open an account, or we need them to open a ticket with Amazon Seller Support. But Amazon Seller Support is a really basic, the first touch is usually a really basic touch point by Amazon. And so oftentimes, the questions that they're going to ask you in return. They want, like, what is the API call you made, in what section, at what time, what's the ID? And there's probably, 10 to 12 different points that they're asking for before they can even, take the case seriously. Is that something that you can expect, like, through seller support and through the rest of Amazon as well?
100%. And every team. That's one thing that, because I understood the principles and I started building processes based on first principles, it's like, okay, next time I need to open the case to, let's say, something different, something like changing my images, right? Sometimes changing images is a pain, and, for some reason, Amazon is not changing them when I updated them in Seller Central. So when they're not doing that, you need to open the case. But the case, in order for them to be efficient, I need to be efficient. And efficiency in this case doesn't mean like, hey, what's up? I need to change my images for this AC.
At Jeff at Amazon.com.
Yeah, exactly. You don't do that. You need to follow a process, and that's one thing that I teach sellers how to do, is like, how you open cases matters. What you say on the case matters. What you send as proof of, documentation matters a lot. So next time you open something, first of all, and going back to being efficient yourself, there are two types of, let's say, path here. If you don't know anything about anything, right, you will open the case and try to find out a guidance or an answer because you have no clue what's going on. But when you understand that your images are not changing, there are tools inside of Seller Central that you can use to change your images in multiple ways. So you have the bulk upload image, you have flat files, you have Seller Central, okay? And you have multiple flat files, not only one, you have multiple ones where you could use to update your images. If that doesn't work, then you go to Seller Support and say like, hey, I cannot change my images. I follow the following steps. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did. So you say everything that you did to understand the root cause of your issue, and you tell them like, it's because, the images are going through, but I don't see them on Amazon.com after 24 hours. Now that you understand the issue and that representative opens that case, they are understanding, or they see that you are an efficient seller, that you understand what you're talking about. So when they take your case, they are obviously going to take it more seriously than somebody that says, hey, what's up? I cannot change my images, right? Like, starting from that, it's incredible. The change in response that you get once you talk to them as I guess more efficient, more professional. A professional seller. That's a word. When you have those processes to talk to them, and again, the reason why I know all of this is because I've opened myself thousands and thousands of cases, and my team tens of thousands of cases, right? And we see those things, and we have that data, and we know what works and it doesn't work. It obviously sometimes, and there will be sellers listening to this, rolling their eyes and say like, no, every time I talk to them, they send me canned responses, or, the same answer that doesn't really work. If you encounter a person like that and you encounter a dead end, don't push that case anymore and open a different one and try to find another representative. Or if you open that case via email, then try to call, or vice versa. So change the approach to see if you can change the result. But it really impressed me, the amount of people that say like, I opened the case 25 times and I always get the same response. And I'm not kidding you when I see that the case has the exact same input. all the time.
What?
So if you put the same input, expect to get the same output, correct? So those are things. Think efficiently and say like, okay, if this didn't work, then what can I do to fix it in the next round?
Yeah, what are they saying? Insanity is doing something over and over and expecting a different result.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting because what you're talking about efficiency, and Amazon's main pillar of efficiency, or one of the main pillars, is efficiency, right? And you're saying that Amazon, part of that you've talked about everything. They're being obsessed, being customer obsessed, their approach for innovation, being holistic and early adopters, and being efficient. That they also provide a ton of tools, a ton of self-help tools in the case that you mentioned, changing pictures. You have 5 different ways to change images, maybe more. And until you try all of them, that is the most efficient thing that you could probably do, is try all of them. Because that probably takes a shorter amount of time and a shorter amount of effort than trying one thing and then waiting 24 hours and sending an email to seller support and then waiting however long. So part of the efficiency, going back to that, is understanding the tools available to you, trying every path that Amazon creates. And if none of that works, then you use seller support as kind of your 5th, 6th, 7th line of defense, not your 2nd.
Yes, exactly. And that's a big thing, because most sellers will open cases for nothing, right? Like for things that they could just do themselves, but they don't understand what is on the other side. Yeah, totally. And the other thing that I have come to realize, working with multiple sellers, different business models, different levels of revenue, catalog, all of it, is that the very successful ones have people in place to be the operators of the business. So it's really odd to find a successful owner or seller that knows everything that I talk about, right? Because they have the team that when I say category listing report, the team already knows. But if I tell it to the owner will be like, what is that? Like, how do I eat that? Right? Like, they don't know. And that is fundamental to the success of a business, especially on Amazon, where, let's say, I don't know, 10 years ago in 2013, you could be everybody. You could do every single job as an Amazon seller, as an entrepreneur, right? You could do inventory, you could do orders, you could do product development, you could also take the pictures with your old iPhone and you could upload it, all of them, and you could write copy, and everything was yourself. The industry and the system, the ecosystem, and Amazon is developing in a more innovative way, more professional way. And I think the industry is getting to a professional level where the sellers that have success are the ones that behave as a professional operators, right? And when you are not a professional operator, you cannot be all. And because of that, you need the team in place to do the things that you don't know how to do. You don't even know that you could do. So right now on Amazon, and this is something that I wrote a piece on LinkedIn thanking the CEO, Andy Jassy, saying like, hey, thank you so much for giving so much data, because, this guy comes from AWS and building that business. He's very heavy on data. When he came up as a CEO, I started seeing the change and the amount of data that sellers had in their business. So a brand could now see the performance on their keywords and in the, let's say, ASIN level, keyword level, the brand analytics. Now you could see returns. Now you could see people that purchase from you every so often. You can send email campaigns. You could see so much right now that it is a whole, just Seller Central, it's just a whole business to manage by itself. Taking aside, the product development or marketing or or product sourcing or things like that. That's just a whole monster. So yeah, understanding that is so important, and it is overwhelming.
Totally.
And I don't think every owner needs to know everything, because you won't be able to do that. So I advise them to just play in your zone of genius, right? If you are a phenomenal product developer, then keep doing that and hire your weaknesses. If you're not gonna do, I don't know, let's say uploading images or creating flat files and opening cases with seller support, you can find the people that, fill those seats in your team and then grow. But yeah, trying to know it all, it is kind of impossible, very overwhelming, and you end up doing everything halfway.
Totally. And it's not just people, right? I guess like when you're looking for specialists in your business, you can also outsource those specialities. Your example of repricing, you can't reprice 24/7. As someone who is a source, let's say I'm a sourcing expert, it's impossible for me to, handle the sourcing, the inbound inventory, the SEO, and the repricing. On top of it, I sometimes need help. And so, finding those specialists like you mentioned is going to be super important for allowing you to scale that business, because this is a really common theme that keeps coming up with everyone that's coming on, is that, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And so what ends up happening is that you have all these holes, and you're so spread thin that you're unaware of these holes. And so that's why, Amazon companies are lucky to have, people like you that understand these holes and ways to create these efficiencies and leverage these tools in order to, cut costs and operate better, faster, stronger.
It's totally. And to that point of the hiring part and outsourcing, I really like to, when people think about building their team or building their suite of tools they have, I like to ask the question, and I took this from Carlos Alvarez. He always talks about it. It's just like, next time you find a tool that you think you need, think about all of the people that you will need to hire in order to perform the task that tool does. So you don't buy tools, you hire tools. So think about the repricer as an employee that you will need to hire in order to do repricing for you. Think about the reimbursement tool that you need to use, the reimbursement employee that you'll need to use to have them opening cases and seeing the data and understanding what's missing and what's not, and having all of the invoices versus hiring another software, or the two Google specialists that you need to hire in order to drive traffic to Amazon and see all of the analytics and bump your ranking and do your SEO and all your copy. Instead, hire a tool. So that's the thing of like, think about tools as a hire that you do in your business rather than another little widget, because they're not. Because if you understand how to use them, then you will have, let's say, a team of 3 people plus, 7 tools, and you have right there 10 employees, right, if you want to think about that, right? But and in a world of AI, I think that we should get used to hand off that work to technology. And I'm so excited of what's the future in this industry, or what we could expect in the next, let's say, 2-3 years. The amount of things that we will be able to do with technology will be so impressive that now really that will leave a lot of space for sellers to play in their zone of genius.
Most definitely. It's like, once you understand what you're really good at, you hire the rest. I've also heard similar things from Carlos Alvarez from Wizards of Ecom. There's a lot of guys like that and a lot of gals like that in our industry that know the workarounds and the things that you can do in order to take those, I don't want to call them shortcuts because they're not shortcuts, but leveraging like these strategic advantages of, different technologies in order to better your business. Vanessa, as we kind of get towards the end of this episode, I wanted to give you a moment to give you any final thoughts about everything that we spoke about today.
Yeah, well, I'll say that write down, if you're a seller, write down in a paper the 4 principles. So customer obsession, innovation, a holistic ecosystem, and efficiency. Write those down and put it in your desk. And every time you see through a problem or a new process that you need to build or a new hire that you need to do, think through those before reacting or before doing something. I think that's super important. And the other invitation is just to start, well, if you don't do it now, start really playing around. And I like this mindset of always be a student. And I think I always have the student mindset. Even though I teach about these things, I like to be a student of the platform. So go in Seller Central and see what are the new programs that are coming up. Actually, I saw today that the dashboard, I don't know when it came out, but I saw it today in Seller Central. It's a new return dashboard. So before, we didn't have a lot of visibility on returns. We get returns. Some people left comment for the returns, and we will see that in the voice of the customer. And when you get a high return rate in voice of the customer, then your SKU got suspended, and it was kind of a reactive process. Right now, Amazon created within the FBA dashboard a dashboard for returns. So you could see percentages of how many units are returned per SKU. You could see what are the main causes of that. You could really see through the data to make adjustments before that even creates a problem in your account. So play around in Seller Central, click things, like go there. It's like, oh, what is this little thing? And click on it, and then find, you will see yourself finding things that you didn't know you had access to, and even things that you didn't know you needed, right? That's probably something that if I ask a seller, they don't think like, oh, that's the first thing I need. But now that I give it to them, now they make their business way more efficient on the returning side, or, returns. So yeah, keep the principles in mind always and be a student of the platform. Those are my takeaways of this conversation.
Most definitely. Though I've got those 4 pillars written down, and I wholeheartedly agree with coming into everything with a beginner's mindset. Even for the two of us that have been in the industry for a lot of years, sometimes it's I know for me personally, sometimes it's difficult to go back to that. And I'm like, oh, I know so much. I've been doing this for so long. But then I get kind of a smack in the face reminding me that there's always new things coming out, which are part of your 4 pillars. And I need to come into every interaction with Amazon with a beginner's mindset. So I love that reminder. So there we have it. Vanessa Hung, who goes over all the things that are unsexy about Amazon, talking to us about Seller Central and how to resolve these problems and be more efficient with their Amazon businesses. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, it was a long time coming to have you on. And I appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.